some intangibles that those projections failed to take into consideration.
The crowd was going crazy. There's not much in life that's better than that.
You're listening to Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys with Mark Willard and Joe Shasky on the 95.7 The Game Podcast Network.
Okay, people, next episode of Garlic Fries and Baseball Guys, along with Joe Shasky, it's Mark Willard, coming at you on the off day prior to the Giants doing the Detroit two-step. So 60 and 61 after grinding out 1 of 3 in Colorado. And Joe, I said it on the way into this series. I'm going to say it again on the way out. It's time for Brandon Belt to sit down. And this is not for punishment. This is because I believe in all sports, there's a line that needs to be ridden. And that is, we love it if you want to grind it out. We love it if you want to play hurt. We love it if you want to give it the old college try. But in order to do that, that lesser version of you still needs to be better than who would replace you. And in this case, it's obviously not. After the bunt escapades late last week, then they went to Colorado. And to me, I was surprised to not find out he was going to be on the IL as of Friday. Instead, he played 2 of the 3 games and went 0 for 8 with 2 strikeouts and could barely get to first base when he hit a ground ball. So that's all. He's not better than what his replacement would be, not even close. So to me, I got you, Captain. You're hurt. You got to take a seat.
For as bad as Joey Bart's first year's been, across the board, his numbers look better than Brandon Belt's, which is a wild sentence to say, right? Yep. For as bad as this year was for Joey Bart, that's how bad Brandon Belt's been. I think as you juxtapose that with Buster Posey and how perfect the send-off was, although for most of us felt like he left a little too soon, very few of our favorite athletes go out on top, go out because it's on their merit or on their choice or their decision. This feels like one of those ugly endings. Like, Mark, there's no other way around it. I've been one of his biggest detractors, and even I feel a tremendous amount of empathy for him. He's trying to grind it out. He's hurting the team. I mean, he's just not a good ball player right now when he's playing hurt like he is, and it sucks. The only way out is you need to literally save him from himself, and you need to take him off the list right now in terms of active players.
It's funny because you and I have even had this conversation as of, toward the end of last year. I mean, Brandon Belt gets hurt. There are plenty of people who still think the Giants beat the Dodgers if Belt hadn't been hurt in the playoffs last year. His OPS was over 1,000 last year. I know he only played like 95, 97 games, whatever it was, but he was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. As of last year, I declared the Belt wars over. And I still believe they are, because what I mean by that is looking back on his career, I believe the good outweighed the bad. Doesn't mean there wasn't bad. It just means the good outweighed the bad. But now you get a year like this, and it does to a degree kind of stir up, not the wars again, but sort of the way we look at his career as a whole. And it does feel like it's coming to a close. And I wonder if that is factoring in on this decision. If Brandon Belt is sitting here going, look, I've got, because what do we got left here? About 40 some odd games or so left in this season. If he's sitting here going, these are going to be my last games as a Giant, or hell, my last games, period, I wonder if that's weighing in on his decision to shut it down because he wants to put something else on tape for a new team, or if he just doesn't want to go out this way. I get that. But if we're going to keep buying that the Giants have a sliver of a chance at the playoffs, you got to get out the way, man, because he can't do it right now. And he admitted that with the bunt.
Yeah. And not just that, just look how he's moving around, walking up to the plate. Look how he's moving around at first base. I mean, look, even the biggest Belt detractor would admit the dude is an above average hitter and a great defender. Like, I don't think that's up for debate. He's a great defender, but his mobility to the left, to the right, it's just not there. There were 3 or 4 different plays, little tweener choppers over the last week where he's in no man's land. And I'm thinking, he's not even going to get back and cover the base. He's not even in a position to be able to field the ball. And he needs to be, if he's going to play, DHing. But even then, at the plate, his bat doesn't justify it right now. Here's the other part, Mark. Like, whether you like them or don't like them, you're going to look up, and they've been in San Francisco since 1958. He's a top 5 first baseman in the 65 or so years, no matter how you break it down. You want to do the metrics, you want to do the championships, you want to do individual success, team accolades. Like, he's going to be in almost everyone's top 5. No, he's not Willie McCovey. All right. He's not Orlando Cepeda. And for a lot of people, he's not going to be Will Clark. But I think for a younger generation, he's their version of a Will Clark in the sense that he manned that position for over a decade during the winningest time since they've moved to San Francisco. He gets credit for that.
Absolutely. And he's never beloved like a Will Clark. There's no doubt. I mean, that was my heyday coming up. That was my favorite player as a kid. This never felt like that, but I'm with you. Dave Fleming said something to you on your show today that caught my ear, even though it was just kind of a one-off innocuous sentence. But you guys were talking about it, and he goes, look, Brandon Belt's been a great Giant. And it was the same sentence I used last week. It set Dibley off. It turned into an entire discussion. I could not find one caller or texter to agree with me that he's been a, quote, great Giant. Everyone's like, oh, he's a good Giant. And I'm thinking, man, where does our bar go? Yeah. He's frustrated us many times. I get that. But he's got 175 career home runs as a Giant, an OPS north of 800, elite defense, as you've discussed, and 2 rings. Where on earth do we get the gall to say that this is just kind of like, he's overrated? It has not been perfect. It's been injury riddled at times and therefore frustrating, but holding a position down for a decade and winning 2 championships, my gosh, I'm going to take that every decade of my life.
Well, you referenced the 2 championships. Most people are going to instantly go, his high water mark, the 18th inning home run against the Nationals, glorious. I'm going to remember him for the World Series in 2014 when no one could hit, and he actually stepped up and batted north of 400. He was fantastic in that World Series, and they don't get a World Series, whether you want to talk about the 2012 one or the 2014 one, without Brandon Belt. He absolutely gets credit for that. He is a great Giant. Was he overrated, underrated? We could scream till we're blue in the face at this point. I think a lot of people have cast the sins of the front office on Brandon Belt, their inability to land a free agent power hitter, a right-handed power bat that could sustain for a long time. People use that as an example to chastise Brandon Belt. He was miscast as a middle-of-the-order guy. For me, I wish they would have had a traditional 4-hitter, and he would have been in that 6-7 role, and I think we look at his entire career differently.
Yeah, it always comes. That's a great point, because it always comes down to that. You know, if you want to talk about busts, disappointments, whatever, it's all through the lens of what were you hoping them to be and what were they asked to be. Mm-hmm. You know, like this is a famous NFL conversation through the years with Reggie Bush. Was Reggie Bush a bust? I don't know. If you take him 10 picks later, you're overwhelmed by how successful he was,
yes,
as opposed to being the number 2 pick when we were told before the draft he was going to be Gale Sayers. So, you know, like that's a great way to look at Brandon Belt. All in all, a wildly successful career and probably the 4th best first baseman in the history of the franchise. Very decorated 2 rings. So I will defend the career of Brandon Belt anytime. But I'm done defending right now.
Yeah.
Right now, and again, this is not a rip job. I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to help, and he sees himself as the leader of this team. And it's been a wobbly season that is on life support, and he's trying to be there for his group and or put something good on tape for free agent conversations next year. But the bottom line is 2 things happened over the last week. A, you did not perform. And then B, you waved a white flag. That, like, to me, that bunt with 2 strikes, I'm not going to get so mad at the decision. I'm going to get upset because of the message that it sends, which remains unacknowledged at this hour. The message was, I can't get a hit off of you. I can't get a hit off of you.
That was the biggest indictment.
Right. And Zach is a good pitcher, but you can't have, I can't, in the middle of your order with 2 men on in the 7th or 8th inning. You can't do that. So if you can't, got to go find someone who can.
And what stinks is that it coincided with Ruff leaving. And I know they're going to try JD Davis or maybe Lamont Wade, or heck, we might see Jock Peterson at some point play a little bit of first base. Yep. But it coincided with their other guy who could be an option to spell him bouncing, in a trade for 4 players. And so they've just got to try something different. I mean, they can't do this to the guy. The thing that I've become more empathetic with over the years is athlete X gets hurt and this bum can't stay healthy. You don't think he wants to stay healthy? You don't think this guy wants to keep playing the game that he loves? Like, I've become much more little heartfelt, at least when it comes to these guys, and seen it through their prism. And anybody, whatever you love to do the most, if your body starts to give up on you, I get my barber, for example, he's getting up there. He's in his 70s. He's got arthritic hands. He can't cut hair anymore. He loves to cut hair. He cannot cut hair anymore. His body is giving out on him. That's sad. It's the same thing that's happening right now for Brandon Belt. His body's giving out on him. Yeah, absolutely. But he's turning 35 next year. You got the 2 rings. You've got, as we said, you've got a great career. And certainly he's been handsomely paid for it. And so I don't think it needs to be one of those things where it's some sort of a slam job on the way out the door. I think Brandon Belt's Giants career is just about up. And unfortunately, if this is as healthy as he's going to be for the rest of the year, I think you shelve him. And if need be, we'll see you on Fan Appreciation Day to be activated for one day and get your standing O. And put your captain hat back on at the end of the day. If that's the way it's got to go, that's the way it's got to go. But at least for another week or 2, while there is some math that puts the Giants in the playoffs, you got to get somebody over there who's ready to swing the bat. You owe it to the rest of the guys in that dugout. You owe it to the entire front office. You owe it to all the fans. There's no doubt about it. And look, his day will come. Brandon Belt's going to get on that wall of fame, and he's put his 10 years of service in. He is a fan favorite for a large segment of the fans. Don't listen to just the vocal, minority guys like myself who used to scream to the high heavens about him. Yeah, absolutely.